and welcome back to Blanche Case Fitness. It's Saturday, and you know what that means? It's time for the weekend kickoff, our awesome strength and stamina focused body weight class. And it's a little chilly in here this morning, which is weird because it's the warmest it's been in at least a week by about 30 degrees. But that also means that we've turned down the heat in the house a little bit, so that probably makes sense. But yes, hi, welcome to Saturday, which is, you know, fingers crossed it's your weekend. If it's not, welcome to Saturday. And I'm glad that you have time to take class before going anywhere and doing anything, so woohoo! Oh my goodness. Yeah, I watched the new episode of WandaVision last night, which I'm loving that show. I'm not gonna lie. I know not everybody does, but from my perspective, it's the first time that I've been like so engaged in the mystery of what the hell is happening in a show. Since the first season of Westworld, and Westworld for me whiffed the landing of that season so badly that it took a lot of that enjoyment out of watching season 2. And I don't even remember if season 3 has come out. Is it out? I saw the trailers, but I don't... Did Westworld just fall completely out of our cultural consciousness? Because, I mean, that's fair. We've got a pandemic going on, but yeah, you know, WandaVision is the first show in a long time where I went in and I had watched several trailers and still felt like I had no idea what was going on. And was honestly really excited about that experience because a lot of times we just get the entire freaking plot from trailers. And it makes me honestly see fewer things because I'm like, well, if you're going to tell me every single piece of relevant information, why would I feel the need to, you know, step foot in the theater or sit down and dedicate several hours of my time to watching this thing? You've already told me everything I need to know about it, and yeah, so there's not really anything left for me to discover. So I've been really enjoying the experience of watching WandaVision, and also, you know, it is so unusual in this day and age to have a show that's sort of titrated out in that way, where you're watching, you know, one episode a week because that's all you can do, or you're letting it build up and then you're binging it. But you know, either way, there's sort of a weight involved that we do not get as frequently, you know, now that entities like Netflix just drop entire seasons at a time. And I love that as well. I think that that is a really wonderful thing to do as well. But every once in a while, I look forward to the experience of just being like, all right, I've watched the one episode and now I actually have to wait a week before I can watch the next episode. It was like that with Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones, speaking of shows that whiffed the landing, so badly, in fact, that I just have no desire to go back and rewatch any of the show, which is always incredibly disappointing. But yeah, so if you have not started watching WandaVision yet and you have access to a Disney Plus account, I strongly recommend it. I'm having a great time. I'm having a great time. And most of the episodes I go, what? Which is really fun. But yeah, so I did stay up a little later than I meant to, because I'm also trying to get through all of the currently available episodes of The Expanse before I cancel my Amazon Prime subscription. So tore through season 4, and now last night just started the first couple episodes of season 5. And that show is remarkable. It reinvents itself every freaking season. And it has, like, it's had stronger points and weaker points, absolutely. But for the most part, that show has just been so strong over its 5 seasons, and it's remarkable to watch. I'm very glad to be coming back to it, you know, sometimes when you're watching things in specific situations and then something about that situation changes, it takes a while to be able to go back to the show, and that was sort of The Expanse for me. I was watching it in a very particular point of life, and then something very dramatically changed, and I was like, I don't think I can go back to this for a little bit. I need a break. But now I'm back to it, and it's wonderful. Yes, I am, in fact, talking about The Expanse. Woo. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good to see you. You have cleaned your apartment, which is so exciting. Yeah, the house is actually coming together. There are, well, my streaming space is not coming together yet, but there are far fewer boxes and tubs around the house now, like things going up on the shelves. There's like a display bookcase now, which is wild. Lots of lanyards with badges for various cons that I'm like, I miss you, cons. That's my personal office display case, and yeah, it's an IKEA one, so probably about everybody who watches the stream has that one. But yes, it feels good. It feels good to clean, feels good to organize, feels good to get stuff up, displayed, off the floor, onto walls, to have an actual plan for my physical space, which is not something that I usually have. So, woohoo! I'm probably going to do more of that today. Once, yes, they are the perfect size for vinyl albums, and the display bookcase downstairs is the same, which is why all of my records are on that display bookcase, because it's just perfectly sized. Actually, my records were in this one until the move. It's no longer going to be, like, y'all remember, that was the bookcase that was, like, in the background of the old space. So my records were on that because it was in the living room, but it's not in the living room anymore, so they have to live somewhere else. Thankfully, we inherited another bookcase with exactly the same dimension of shelves, so it worked out perfectly. Woo, woo, woo. All right, my dears. Yep. It's Saturday morning, we know, because I'm yawning away. Of course, I yawn. I yawn at the beginning of most classes. Look, you know, there's a lot going on in our lives. And if you're like me, and many of you probably are, you don't necessarily take enough time for rest, which is ironic considering how much I'm always reminding you of the importance of rest. Yes. So just know that I know how hard that can be, and that I'm going to keep reminding you anyway, and I'm going to keep reminding myself, and I'm doing better at it. I am, absolutely, and that's important for me to recognize. It's important for me to remind myself, again, what is perfect? The enemy of good. So, yeah, working out, getting some energy flowing, getting some food in us, taking the rest of the day, hopefully, if this is a day off for you, to be able to rest, and if not, taking that energy and using it to energize everything else that you have to do today, and then hopefully getting to whenever your rest day is and taking a rest. But first we have to exercise before we get to that part of the plan. So let's do our pre-class checklist, my friends. We've got our water in whatever vessel we are using. Saturdays are always hard because I don't have time to finish my entire mug of tea before I have to stop drinking liquids for class. So I have this like half a mug of tea over here and I'm like, oh no, but I wanted to drink you, but I had to stop. You've got your water, you've got your comfy clothes, whatever that means to you. You've got your mat or mat-sized space on the floor. And if you use a fitness wearable, let's turn them on now. High intensity interval training, get that party started before we get this party started. Oh, yes, I was born in the 80s. Yes, I grew up primarily in the 90s. Yes, I know it shows. Oh my goodness. One last big yawn. And let's just take one deep breath together and center ourselves. You're here, you're prepped, we're gonna work out, it's gonna be intense, it's gonna be awesome, and then you're gonna go through whatever else you need to go through for the rest of the day. And I don't know what keeps hitting this window. Oh, I bet it's ice melting. Okay, there we go. I solved the issue. All right, that's on. Phone is here, water is there. Time for warm up. Woo! All right. So, everybody on your mats, on your backs. 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee, and as soon as that timer goes off, we will begin with our hip rocks and bridges. I just went into my auctioneer voice for a second there. Ooh! Oh man, I've been really enjoying classes this week, my friends, and I definitely feel like I have ramped up the intensity of my own workouts in a way that I guess I hadn't been doing for a little bit, which makes sense because January was such an intense month. And, you know, beginning of February as well, like there was the move and I got a new job, you know, just so many things happening. And I was definitely trying to conserve energy for all of those things by going a little bit easier on my workouts, which is a great strategy, FYI. You know, and again, we talk about conserving energy a lot in class. We talk about it, you know, in terms of not ramping up to full energy output here in the warm-up. We talk about it particularly on perpetual motion day, making sure that you are able to keep moving for the entire hour. But we talk about it with basically every class. And again, as with so many of the lessons that we try to hone in on while we're working out, a lot of them are translatable to the rest of our lives. So if you are trying to do a lot of things at the same time, or having a lot of changes coming down the pipe all at once, it is really important to look at everything that you're trying to do and to figure out where and how you can conserve energy. And I know how hard this is because we frequently have a tough time saying no when people ask us to do things. And, you know, there is also a lot of stigma around telling people, you know I said I would do this thing, but I do not have the bandwidth for it right now. And I'm terrible at this. To be clear, this is something that I am trying to work on with myself as well, because I definitely have a tendency to overload myself and then to be like, well, cool. So I feel like I'm going to collapse. Yeah, it is something that is really hard to do, but is really important to do because we have finite stores of energy, okay? And those stores of energy cannot always cover everything that we are trying to do all at once. And if we want to replenish them, we need to make time for that, which we are also bad at doing. We need to make time for eating food. We need to make time for taking a rest, for, like we were talking about last night, doing the activities that actually really recharge us. So one of the things that we can do when we're feeling like a lot of stuff is coming down the pipeline and we're getting a little overwhelmed, we don't necessarily want to drop our fitness habit altogether. That's not necessarily what we want to do, and it's not necessarily what I would advocate for. But you absolutely can and you absolutely should take it easy, you know? Maybe you're working out the same number of times per week, but you're just going for walks rather than doing class. Or maybe you really want to keep this class as something you were absolutely doing, but you're just gonna slot into the bare minimum for a couple of weeks. That is fine, okay? That demonstrates that you recognize that you have that finite amount of energy and that more things are happening right now that are going to require that energy, and you are paying attention to how you can best utilize it so that everything gets what it needs, okay? And sometimes that means ramping back on some things, and that's fine, you know? But the first thing we have to get through and get over is this fear that we are failing and that failing is the worst thing that we can do. If you're a former gifted and talented kid, odds are that you have struggled with the feeling that failure is the worst thing that you can do for a good chunk of your life. And kids aren't taught how to fail and then to keep going. You know, we create this schooling system where we give kids giant, tests, and we ramp up their anxiety around it, and then we're like, oh, you failed, shame. And you're like, oh my God, I failed. Oh no, my entire future for the rest of my life is impacted because I failed this one test when I was 10 years old, and we do not learn this skill, this really, really critical skill of how to fail and how to have it not be the end of the world, And so one of the steps is being honest with ourselves about how much energy we have and what's taking a lot of it, and whether the activities taking a lot of energy are also giving back energy in the form of joy or power or strength, So I remember like 6 years ago, I had just moved out here, and I decided to start a chapter of a networking organization that I'd been part of back in Rhode Island. And I was really excited to do that because I had very much enjoyed the experience of going to some of the events out there, and I thought it would be a really great way to meet new people and to get a little better integrated into the community. And it was really wonderful and challenging to sort of, kick it off and start building those relationships. But eventually, I realized that with the amount of time I was spending on it, it was basically a second job that I was doing for no money. And I was stressed out all the time, and I was feeling like I wasn't able to focus on my actual job particularly well, and I wasn't able to focus on this non-paid job particularly well, and I didn't have any other real habits or hobbies in my life to refresh me. So I was just blasting through all of my available energy on activities that were not making me feel happy or challenged or passionate. And it still took me a while before I finally went, I cannot do this anymore. I feel like I'm falling apart because I have no energy left, because I'm giving it all to these jobs, one paid and one not, and it's crushing me. And so I had to step away from the organization, and it was such a hard decision to make, but it was also exactly the right decision to make. And but it was so hard because I didn't want to feel like I was failing anybody and letting people down. And it was like, well, they're not going to want you to grind yourself into dust for this. they will understand. It might be hard. They might be disappointed to not get to work with you anymore, but the people that care about you will understand why you need to step away. And that was, I think, the first time really that I had allowed myself to do that. And 6 years later, I'm still not particularly good at doing it. I will fully admit that I still struggle very much with that. And I've been trying to figure that out for myself right now in the midst of a lot of personal life transitions. New house and new job and stream and personal training clients, and just trying to figure out, do I have the resources for all of the things that I am trying to do right now, and how can I modify or adjust what I'm doing, or do I really need to take a step back from something or multiple things that I'm doing? And I don't know, I don't know what the answer there is going to be. I still hope that I have mostly circled in on a way to balance things that will be effective for me, but it's entirely possible that I haven't, and that I'm going to have to make some hard decisions at some point about what I want to keep and what I want to focus my energy on, and what maybe needs to take a bit of a back seat. And that's hard, and that can feel like you've failed, but it's A, not really a failure, and B, even if it is, that is not an inherently negative thing. So yes, on this Saturday, as we're warming up, I want you to look at, some of the places in your own life where you have been afraid to fail, or feeling incredibly judgmental against yourself for perceived failures. And I want you to see what you can do to change that narrative for yourself. To be like, I am not failing, truly. I am dealing with a lot of things, and I'm having to make some really hard calls, but that is indicative of my ability to truly examine what is important to me, and what I want to be focusing on, and where I want to put my limited stores of energy, So that is my homework for you for this Saturday, is just trying to figure out how to be kinder to ourselves, which is a lesson I think I will be learning for my entire life. But I also know that I'm better at it now, and that is huge, and that's really important. And I very much hope that I can help you to be kinder and more thoughtful to yourselves as well, because I know how hard it is, and sometimes we all need that help. We need that outside voice. We need that extra push, and we need to remember that it is okay to ask for help. Asking for help is important. Reminding ourselves that we are not islands trying to go it alone, and that we should never have thought that we were. We are part of a vast system of humans, and we should be caring for each other, and we should be reaching out for help from our communities. And we should not be ashamed of that, or, feeling like there's something wrong with it. I know I'm not doing my kick-throughs, but I feel very passionate right now. We are not individualist. Well, let me rephrase. There is too much emotional individualism built into the mythology of America. This idea that one person is going out and going it alone, and wow, look at what they built with no help from anyone. And that's never true. That is never true. No one in the history of humanity has ever built something with no help from anyone, okay? Everything that we build, that we create, that we grow, is the result of the effort and creativity of so many people. And we do ourselves a disservice, and we do our society and our culture and our communities a disservice when we go full emotional individualist. When we go, nah, I don't need to worry about anybody else because everybody else is just taking care of themselves, so I'm just going to take care of myself too. And it's a harmful way to go through the world. And I've been there, absolutely. I'm very glad I'm not there anymore, or at least mostly not there anymore. Again, no learning process is perfect, but perfect is the enemy of good. The important thing is we keep working and we keep growing and we learn the lessons, and then we actually implement them, because learning is only half the battle, right? Learning is only half the battle if we are not then implementing that lesson. Oh my God. Wow, Amanda, that is a harrowing story, honestly. Holy crap. Are you kidding me? Yeah, but this is the thing, right? We get guilted into not being willing to give all of ourselves to jobs. We get guilted into recognizing that we have needs and we need rest and we need those activities that make us happy and that recharge us. And like, the reason that so many people, or one of the reasons that so many people just keep barreling forward, is reactions like that, where somebody tries to make you feel ashamed for wanting to protect this space that is about rest and rejuvenation and spending time with friends, which is just as valuable as anything else that we are doing in our lives. All right? Yeah. I'm angry on your behalf, but I am also very proud of you for sticking to your guns. All right, my friends. Hey, it's Saturday. You know what I love to do on Saturdays. Toe squats. Feet hip width. Keeping our backs straight up and down. Starting to squat down until we can't go any further. And then just letting the heels come off the ground all the way down here. And then letting the heels come back down naturally as we stand up. Alrighty? If you hear weird things hitting the window, yes, that is just ice. So we're going to do a 10-minute timer for this. And I want you to just do as many as you can in those 10 minutes. Yes, you can take rests throughout, absolutely. Stretch, get water, but you have to do the same number of reps in between each rest. All right, so if you start out doing 20 reps, before you have a rest, cool, you're doing 20 reps each time. If you start out doing 50 reps before you take a rest, cool, you're doing 50 reps each time, all right? So again, be honest with yourself and be ready to push yourself a little bit. All right, everybody on your mats, get ready, get set. And as soon as you hear that horn, yeah. So what are the things that we need to touch base on as we start our toe squats? Well, first thing I always say, checking in on that core engagement, all right? Because we're coming down into a balance position. We are balancing up on the balls of our feet. And so as with all of our other balance positions, we want to try and manage any micro adjustments that need to be made from the foot and the ankle only. But we're balancing on a very small surface area. So we need to make sure that the rest of our body isn't going in unexpected directions that are going to make it harder for our feet and ankles to manage that balance. So before I go anywhere, I engage my core muscles. All right, they're engaged. And that has basically pulled everything in my torso into alignment. So as I'm going down, I am not worrying about my torso going in some direction I don't expect and pulling me along with it. All right, and this also helps me to protect against gravity trying to take too much a part of this exercise. So gravity is not our friend here in toe squat land. Gravity thinks it's our friend. Gravity really wants to help. Gravity's like, well, you're trying to get down to the floor. I want to get you down to the floor. It's a match made in heaven. But if you're letting yourself just sort of drop down and bounce around down here, you are putting some nasty pressures on your knees. And we like to protect our knees. Our knees are an important joint. One of my friends just messed up their knee again, and they've had a lot of knee problems over the last couple of years. So be kind to your knees. Make sure that you are in control. That doesn't mean you can't go fast. You know, I can get a pretty good rhythm going here, but you see how I am controlling the movement the whole way down and the whole way up. I'm not bouncing when I hit the ground. I'm not letting go of my control over any of the muscles and letting myself bounce around, all right? I am in control the whole time. So that is a super important piece of this puzzle, that we are not, you know, getting 3/4 of the way there and then being like, all right, just collapse. That's fine, right? No. Foundation is form. Our foundation is form. And it is so important that we are checking in on our form and that we are maintaining it the whole time through our toe squats here. All right? If you're new to toe squats, one of the things that you can expect, I mean, besides the obvious fatiguing of your quads, is cramping in the arch of your foot. All right, so if you're feeling that, when you take your rests, just try and shake your feet out a little bit and then roll over the top of the toes. So you're basically, since we've been coming up onto the ball of the foot like this, we're basically doing the opposite, working the opposite muscle. You'll feel that stretch going up the top of the foot into the shin, and you can just stretch and even out your feet that way. Totally natural to get that cramping in your feet, especially when you're still pretty new to this. It took me about a part of a year, I think, before I finally got to a place where I was no longer feeling super cramped in my feet when I finished a set of toe squats. So if you've been doing this for a while and you still are feeling cramps in your arches, that's totally fine. Make sure you are paying attention
to the quality of sensation. There's a difference, obviously, between, ooh, my arches are working really hard and they're cramping a bit because of the engagement, versus, oh, maybe I have some sort of a foot condition like plantar fasciitis, and it's causing me pain. Hey, we're halfway through. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. So pay attention to that. You know, don't get paranoid if you have never had a diagnosis of plantar fasciitis. Then don't get immediately paranoid that that's what it is. But if you do have plantar fasciitis, or maybe you have bunions, or have had bunion surgery, because that also impacts our feet, obviously, pay attention to what footwear you wear during the workout. I always work out barefoot. That is how I am comfortable. You know, I was a dancer for decades before I moved into this realm of fitness, and I always practiced barefoot, so that's just sort of how I feel comfortable. But if you have foot issues, then you may need extra support, okay? So please, if you need to wear sneakers while you're doing this and get that extra support for your feet, absolutely do, all right? The only thing I really recommend against is taking this class in socks only, because socks just are not giving us the traction that we need. Maybe, I know that there are traction socks out there for yoga or daily method or bar classes. I've never used those, so if you have and you feel like they give you enough traction, okay, but regular socks, definitely not. You want to have a nice stable connection between your feet and the mat. And barefoot definitely lets us do that, and sneakers definitely let us do that with their treads. But socks, definitely, socks are more dangerous, frankly. Socks make it more likely that we're going to step onto a surface and our foot is not going to connect to it in the way that we're expecting, and then over we fall and we injure ourselves, and it's just not a fun time. So yeah, that's my recommendation. I don't think I've talked about that in a while, but like I said, you do not have to take class barefoot. That is not a recommendation. You can do sneakers, but please don't use socks unless you feel super confident that you are wearing socks with enough traction against your floor or the mat. Just really important. Alrighty? All right. How's everybody feeling? Hopefully you've been taking your rests when you need to, maybe stretching out your quads a little bit, and doing that foot stretch, getting the calves in on the action. That's the nice thing about this structure. You do have the space to be able to say, all right, for this rest, maybe it's going to be slightly longer than usual rest, and I'm going to really make sure to stretch everything out before I go into my next set, all right? We are in our last minute of this timer, okay? So generally, when we get to the last minute, I issue a challenge to try and keep going for the entire minute, all right? So try as best you can, even if it's gonna take you over the number of reps you have been doing. See if you can keep going for the Now 25 seconds left, okay? And this just gives us a nice opportunity to check in on our challenge rating and to see whether we can up it, you know? To see whether we are ready to push ourselves to the next level. All right? And hey. Ah, excellent. Excellent, excellent. Water time. Ooh, as I fall backwards. Oof. Ooh, I have never heard of that brand of socks. Interesting. Very cool. Oh, and I'm very glad that somebody's already shoveled your walkway. Yeah, it's a lot of the snow definitely melted yesterday because that's what happens in Colorado. As long as it's not literally below freezing, we'll have all the snow and then the sun will come out and melt most of it away. And you know, it's convenient because it means that it's a lot easier to keep using trails and sidewalks and stuff during the winter. But it's also one of those things where it's like, well, I didn't think it was that warm out, but all the snow is melted, so I guess it was warm enough for the sun to do its job at this altitude. All right, my friends, we're gonna do a tabata, a long tabata, 45 seconds of work to 15 seconds of rest. And 3 exercises, 3 times through. And first one is going to be London bridges, all right? So I introduced this a few weeks back, but we start from a front plank position, and then we drop one hip down towards the ground, almost all the way, but not just letting it sag. I've still engaged my core, then back up and other side, and we just go back and forth and back and forth, all right? Woo! So really digging into those obliques today. Yeah. Second exercise, we're gonna go a little core heavy right now, just to give our quads some time to rest after toe squats. So second exercise is gonna be shrimps. So rocking back and forth along your mat by moving first shoulders, then hips, then shoulders, then hips, then shoulders, then hips, and just going back and forth and back and forth. And then our third exercise is going to be chaturanga to downward dog. My usual caveat, I'm not a yoga instructor. This is sort of my weird version. I use the name because it's the easiest thing to trigger the overall structure of what I'm doing, but I should probably come up with a new name for it. So from a front plank, down as if in a push-up when you're almost to the ground, leave your hips behind, extend your arms, look up at the ceiling, and then push back against your hands into a downward dog, and then return to that plank, and repeat, all right? So, London bridges, shrimps, and push-ups to a downward dog. And we are going for 45 seconds of work to 15 seconds of rest. Remember, the first sound does not mean go, so you do not need to rush into getting into place. All right, that first sound means stop, and 15 seconds of rest. We've got an extra 5 seconds, and that always throws me off because I'm like, oh my God, this has been going for an age. Did I miss something? But there was the knocking. Get ready, get set, and go. So we are needing to control a lot of things in this exercise. So we need to make sure that our shoulders are engaged and stable. So as I'm bringing the hip down, I don't want to be sinking down into my shoulders at the same time. So I want my shoulders to stay engaged the whole time, no matter where I am in the motion, okay? And then really focusing in on the abdominals, both keeping them engaged as we sink and then engaging them and pulling ourselves back up to that plank position, all right? It's intense. It's intense. Definitely make sure that you're breathing and go slow. As with everything, you know, when we're first starting out a new exercise, we want to go slowly and deliberately. We do not need to start out with lots of speed and intensity, because what's our first focus? Well, it is making sure that we understand and internalize the form of the exercise. So we want to make sure that we are being really deliberate about that. And today in particular, you know, this is our strength and stamina class. So this is not a class where I'm looking for you to be racing. I'm not looking for you to be pushing for lots of speed. Most important thing is maintaining our power and continuing to move the whole time, okay? So you can really focus in on your strength, all right? And allow yourself to really revel in that experience. Again, we talked yesterday about the importance of actually finding joy in movement and in exercise and in our bodies in motion, all right? So on a day like this, I focus in on, wow, how incredible does it feel to have so much strength and power in my muscles. Whoa, I notice this particular muscle group engaging, and I never used to notice that before. So I think it's strengthening, and I think I'm also developing a closer relationship with my body so that I notice these things. That's our focus for today, and that is an important focus. Anything that gets us to really hone in and build that relationship with our bodies, not with, you know, societal expectations of our bodies or photoshops of our bodies, but with our bodies as they are now, in the strength and power that they have, okay? That's what we're going for today. So, all right, you just finished your second run of London bridges. What are you gonna do next? Well, you're gonna do shrimps next, obviously. Knock, knock, knock. Getting ready, getting in position. And they're off. Huzzah! Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, definitely. We've had a lot of core work. And I am feeling the improvement. I am feeling the increased strength and power from my abdominals. And I hope you are too. It's just so much fun. It's just so much fun. What an incredible muscle group. Dang. And it just allows us to do so many things. So, here, every day is core day. At Blanche Fitness, every day is core day. Oh my goodness, but I hope you've been enjoying it. I hope that you are remembering to sit back and pay attention to the incredible care that you are taking for your body and for yourself as a whole entity. All right, because that's why we're here. We are building our toolbox to take care of ourselves as a whole entity. You know, I'm not here to take care of just Blanche, the disembodied brain, or Blanche, the autopiloted body. I am here to take care of everything in my existence, in my realm of existence, which is encompassed in here, you know? And that's our goal. That is our goal. I'm not teaching this class for Olympic athletes, you know, for people who want to be going at a really elite level and are, you know, willing to put themselves through some things to get there. I want to work with people who are looking for exercise to be a regular part of their lives so that they can be as healthy as possible. And I hope that I always get that across, you know. And that's why I put so much focus on form. And that's why I take so much time to remind you of the importance of rest, of refueling, of recharging, you know, because we want to be able to not just exist in our bodies, but to be happy in them. And that happiness comes not from fighting against them or seeing them as, you know, an enemy combatant, but seeing them as a partner and a friend and something that is doing absolutely incredible, frankly almost unbelievable things every time I do something as simple as lift a hand to wipe a hair away from my face, you know? The amount of chemistry and electricity and movement that goes into just that one motion is amazing. And we should celebrate that. As I'm shrimping, I'm looking at my anatomy books on my display shelf and going, I really need to dig in and read those more. Whew. All right. Last one. Last but not least, we come back to our chaturanga to downward dog. Finish out this set on a strong note. Alrighty, really focusing in on that power, on that strength, you know, taking yourself down in that plank push-up almost to the ground is incredible. And I want you to really enjoy that feeling, and then extending your arms, pushing yourself back into that downward dog. Get a little bit of a stretch integrated, engaging my core to help pull backwards, and then patting yourself on the back, because woo, we're doing good. We are doing good, my friends. All right. Yeah, London bridges are tough. Absolutely. A client actually introduced me to that exercise a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh yeah. Oh, I can't believe I didn't know about this. So, but they're intense. They're intense, and we've been doing so much core work, and they're still really intense. Alrighty. Let's do another Tabata set, my friends. We've rested our legs a little bit, which is good, because now I want you to do wall sits. All right, so I'm gonna try and demonstrate. Actually, I can probably demonstrate against this wall. I have a little more space. So we're coming down into that seated position. We're trying to keep 90-degree angle, torso to thighs, 90-degree angle, thighs to calves, okay? Remember, you can anchor yourself with the feet and, you know, leverage that to push your back flat against the wall. And remember to breathe, all right? So that was exercise 1. Exercise 2, we're we're just gonna do some jumping jacks. All right, I want you to do full version of jumping jacks, but if you have shoulder issues, you may still want to keep a bend in your elbows rather than straight arms, because having the arms straightened like that increases the range of motion that they have to get through, which can be hard. It can be a hard repetitive stress on your shoulders. So we want nice big jumping jacks with your arms straightened or not, depending on your shoulder health status. And then third, I think, and I know we just did London bridges, but third is going to be just front plank. So you know what that looks like because we just did London bridges. You're just not dipping your hips down the way that we were. Alrighty? Okay, so wall sit, jumping jacks, front plank. Everybody is ready. Everybody is steady. Everybody is just about good to go. That sound did not mean go though. So give yourself another 15 seconds. And then knock, knock, knock tells us to start getting into position. So the second that we hear that horn, we are there. And wall sits are one of those exercises where we're like, oh man, it's simple, but it is not easy. Because all I'm doing is chilling against this wall. That is pretty simple. You know, I'm not having to go anywhere. I'm not having to move through space. All I have to do is chill in this seated position up against this wall. But man, is it intense on your quads, on your calves. You need to make sure you're still breathing because there's so much isometric muscle action happening, and they need that oxygen. They need that help. They need you to fuel them, and breathing is how we do that. All right, now we're doing our jumping jacks. And again, I don't usually dig too far into form for these because they're a relatively simple exercise, but as with everything, check in on your core engagement because we are moving a lot of limbs around, and it is really helpful to have that core engaged to help pull them back to the center correctly so that you're not they're not sort of going in all directions, you know? So yeah, that would be the one thing that I would say is check in on that core engagement and feel how it can help to pull your limbs, particularly your legs, back into position. All right, so front plank. We've got our shoulders directly over our elbows, and we've got those shoulders engaged, just like we did in the London bridges. And then we're just chilling right here. Again, this is a held position. So I need you to make sure that you are breathing the whole time, all right? We are not here to just hold our breaths and be like, okay, I am in a perfect, unmoving position for 45 seconds. That is not our goal. We still need that oxygen. You need to make sure that you're breathing, all righty? Woo! Okay, that was set one. How y'all feeling? Recognizing that having two really intense held positions in one set is a lot. It is definitely a lot. So check in on your form each time, okay? With our held positions, things can start to drift that we don't necessarily notice, you know? We start to sink down too low in the wall sit, or our shoulders start pushing backwards, or, you know, our butts drift up in the air or start drifting down towards the floor. So always check in on that form every time and a few times throughout. You know, for a held position, you don't have any other motion to get in the way of paying attention to what the form is. So you really want to check in. All right, getting prepped for round 2 of jumping jacks. And again, this is a nice sort of break exercise in the middle. Again, it's an exercise that basically everybody is probably familiar with, but particularly if you are American, if you were raised in our school system, went through PE classes, then you likely did lots of jumping jacks as a kid. So, you know, just look at this as a bigger active rest exercise, right? Where you're like, all right, cool, I don't have to put a lot of thought into form on this one. I know what I'm doing, and I can just sort of, you know, rock through these 45 seconds without too much hassle. Oh my goodness. All right. And now back to that held position. Back to our front plank, getting in position now because we just heard that knocking sound. And they're off. Yeah. It's the nice thing about tabatas. When we look at our triad of the bare minimum, starting on time, stopping on time, and doing the exercise correctly, tabatas make that super easy. The first 2 anyway. Because you're starting from a rest position, so when you hear the knock, knock, knock warning sound, you're able to get yourself into position to begin the exercise. So as soon as you hear that horn, you can just start going. You don't have to, oh my God, I have to get down to the floor for this thing. You're already there. And then stopping on time, again, you hear that air horn and you go, all right, it's time to stop. And you stop moving. So tabatas are the easiest incarnation of starting on time and stopping on time that we have. So we're heading into our 3rd and final run. One thing to keep in mind for the wall sits, I'm noticing for myself, so I'm on like a wood floor right now. And this is the one exercise where the traction of my feet is not necessarily doing everything that it usually does. So just pay attention. You know, if you have to shuffle your feet backwards to make sure that you're still in the appropriate position, obviously you can do that. But just pay attention because our feet do have a tendency to sort of push forward, and that may get us a little bit out of the position that we're trying to hold, okay? Oh, golly. Wall sits are hard. Wall sits are hard, even as we get better at them. Even as our quads get stronger, wall sits are still hard. All right, so don't worry. I'm not over here having a magically easier time on wall sits. They are an intense exercise to get through. Oh, all righty. Now we get our little rest for our jumping jacks, which is always really nice. And this is a good exercise to do for a timer like this. You know, it's cardio, but it's not as intensive to maintain as flaming scarlets or mountain climbers or things like that. So you can really keep that going for the entire 45 seconds and not feel worried about it. Woo! All right, knock, knock, knock. Last but not least, our final front plank. Checking in again on that form. We want our body in basically a tabletop position. We want those shoulders nice and engaged. We don't want the hips to be falling down towards the floor, but we also don't want them to be pushing up towards the ceiling. Alrighty? So we want to make sure that we are able to hold this tabletop whole time, nice and straight and strong, breathing until the final horn goes off. Oh, all right. Yeah. Dang. Dang. Okay, let's grab some water. Yeah, that's why I don't do the wall sits on my mat, because my mat definitely slides under them. You know, my wood flooring is a little more slippy than I would like it to be, but far less slippy than trying to do it on my mat is. So, yeah, again, we figure out the modifications that allow us to do exercises safely, all right? That is so important. Okay. We're gonna end on a cardio tabata, my friends. Standard, 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. I'm going to give you the choice of either doing flying chickens, so feet starting together, jumping apart in the air, but landing back together in this position. Thumbs at chest height. If you wear a bra, you can hook your thumbs under your bra straps. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. So that's one option. Mountain climbers are another option. So from that plank position, driving one knee at a time, making sure to keep the engagement of the shoulders and keeping the butt out of the air. Or burpees, which we obviously do every day in the warm-up, so I don't need to go over them too much. So pick one of those exercises, just one, and that will be the exercise that you do for this final tabata, all right? I personally, I'm gonna do flying chickens, because that's where I feel like I'm at, but you do not have to do what I do. Just know that whatever you pick right now in the next 3 seconds is what you're doing for all 8 sets, starting now. Well, starting when I started to move, but you get it, you know it. So here we are at the end of class, the end of a nice, intense, hour-long class, and what we are gonna do right now is we are gonna take all those remaining pockets of energy and we are going to use them, all right? Because we are no longer trying to hold back our energy for the rest of class. This is it. This right here, these 8 sets, is the rest of class. So we can afford to push ourselves even harder, dig in, find that last pocket, imagine ourselves on the straightaway into the finish line of the race that we call this hour-long class of fun. And just giving ourselves, again, just like we did at the end of the toe squats, where we tried to keep going for that entire minute as an opportunity to challenge ourselves to see whether our, well, that's good to know, whether our challenge rating is improved. That is exactly what we're doing here. We are going to challenge ourselves. We are going to see whether we are even more badass than we already knew that we were. Book spell over. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. Sorry, shelving unit. All right, you're halfway done, my friends. Halfway done, so just 4 more sets to go. All right, 4 more sets, 20 seconds each. 20 seconds, it's nothing. You have absolutely got this. So now is the time that we find our cheerleaders, our internal cheerleaders, and we set them down on the floor next to our mats, next to our computers, our televisions, whatever you're watching the stream on right now. They are cartwheeling around. They are doing their best floor routines. They're tossing pom-poms in the air and they are cheering you on. Because you know what? They know exactly what I know, which is that you have gone through an hour of class. You have demonstrated your internal strength, your internal power, and your external strength and power over and over and over again. And you should be so proud of that because you have been dealing with a lot of things this year. You know, I may not know all of them, but I know that you've been dealing with a lot this year and you are still taking this opportunity to care for yourself, to care for your fitness and your health, and to make sure that you can get back out there and you can go through the rest of today, the rest of your weekend, and the next week that begins, and you can absolutely achieve what you want to achieve. You can rest and protect that rest time, and you are doing an amazing job. I am so proud of you, and I hope that you always remember that. Yes, good job, everyone. Woo! Grab a quick sip of water, and then join me on your mat for a little bit of stretching. Oh man, all right. Let's start by taking the legs open into a nice wide position. I would call this second position. We want those knees to be pointing straight up at the ceiling, no matter where we are, okay? So do not let them start to cave forward, as with everything else around knee positioning. So you may have an easier time of that on one side and may have to engage a little bit of the musculature in your hips to maintain that on the other side. All right, let's get a nice hamstring stretch in. So I want you to square your shoulders towards one leg and just slowly fold over. Again, this other knee still pointing straight up at the ceiling. And we are folded over, shoulders square towards this knee. And I'm going to take off my glasses because they're in the way. You can let your head rest on your shin if you are down low enough, and just really feel the stretch in the hamstring. And we're going to take 4 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. And then whatever leg you're over, take that same arm, bring it to the inside of the leg. Open your opposite shoulder out, okay? And then take that arm up and over. Nice long stretch. Maybe you can get to touch your toes, maybe you can't, but you're gonna feel that nice long stretch going all the way up the side of your back. And we're just gonna hold here and take 2 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. And 2. And then bring that arm up and allow it to bring your entire torso back up to center. And then we go to the other side. When we're moving into this stretch, again, as always, go down slowly. We don't want to activate the hamstring so that it tries to contract, all right? You may notice that this side's hamstring is tighter or maybe more flexible. Either one is normal. We're not symmetrical creatures. Keep that other knee still pointing up towards the ceiling. And we're going to take those 4 deep breaths. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Then take the same arm as leg to the inside. Open that shoulder up. Bring the other arm up and over. Nice long stretch along the side of the back. And let's take 2 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. And 2. Lift that arm up. Let it bring the whole torso up. Shake those knees out a little bit. Yeah, and now we're gonna dig into a hip stretch. So I'm gonna have you start to get into the pretzel stretch that we do, but we're not gonna do the whole stretch. So first I'm gonna take one leg, I'm gonna fold it so my knee is down against the floor, and I'm gonna bring that foot, that heel, to the outside of the opposite hip. My other leg, the knee is still pointing up towards the ceiling. I wanna keep it that way. I'm gonna take the foot and cross it over. So now I'm in this nice sort of pretzel position, right? Now, we're not gonna go through the whole, you know what? No, I lied, we are. So now, for whichever knee I've got pointing up towards the ceiling, I take the opposite arm around it, hug it into my chest. So now you should start to feel a stretch on the outside of your hip, okay? To add a little bit of a twist in the spine, intensify the hip stretch a bit, we are going to turn away from the knee, away from that arm. We're going to bring our other arm behind us, reaching out behind us to help intensify that twist. Just hold there briefly, really lean into that stretch in the hip. All right, and now we're gonna turn back to the front. We're gonna bring this ankle up on the other knee. Keep the foot flexed. It's gonna help protect this knee, because now we're just gonna fold right over, and you're gonna feel a really intensified stretch in that hip. So this is essentially part of the pigeon pose that you may have done in yoga classes, and that is really focused on getting that nice stretch in the hip. Oh boy, howdy, yeah. All right, let's take a couple deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. And 2. Okay. And now we let ourselves up, we unfold and go for the other side. So same position, opposite arm, hug that knee into your chest. Thank you, watch. Reach the other arm directly behind you to really intensify that twist in the spine. Just enjoy the feeling of that hip stretch, all right? So it may already feel pretty intense just from doing this. And now we're gonna turn back to the front, bring that ankle up on the opposite knee. Remember to keep this foot flexed, and we're gonna fold over. And again, you may have one hip that is more flexible than the other, so this position may look very different. And that's okay. All right, and now we're just gonna take those 2 deep breaths. Here we go. That's one. And two. And up. And unfold. And awesome. Oh, all right. Yeah. Look, I am so proud of you. And that's the thing. That's why I like to give choice every once in a while for those, because sometimes you do that. You go, all right, I'm going to do mountain climbers. And then you start going and you're like, this is going to be intense, but I can't back out now. And then you surprise yourself. You did it. See, that's freaking awesome. You are a rock star. All of you are rock stars. Make sure to drink your water. We've had a good class today. Oh man, we've had a very good class today. So much fun. I have a little bit of a headache, which has been a little frustrating through class. I can tell I get a lot of, I carry my tension in my neck. And some days it ramps up a lot, and that's when I generally have to do some stretching out and let's face it, generally take some sort of a pain reliever. But if you struggle with that, one of the things that can help, I mean, obviously having somebody massage your neck can help, but you can also massage out the scalenes, which are the big corded muscles coming down the sides of your neck. And if you just pinch right here, you can tell you're holding on to it. You can feel it, and just move up and down that muscle and just sort of do a rolling pinch. Okay, and it's going to feel really intense, but you're doing it to yourself so you can set the intensity, you can set the pressure, and just go up and down. And that can help. That's already helping me to release a little bit of the tension. But that's a really good muscle to massage out, especially if you have a lot of neck tension, because I mean, if you've ever seen like an anatomical drawing of body, that's just like a big thick thing, because it's trying to manage the weight of the head. It needs to be powerful, but it also means that it can really get really tightened up if it's not being stretched out a little bit. So I'll probably do some of that and then just relax for the rest of the day. I'm going to make cookies today. Last week was bread, although I am probably going to make bread this week too. I want to try a new, for me in this book, recipe. Now that I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with the process of making bread as shown to me in the particular book that I use, which I do recommend. Flour, water, salt, and yeast. It is, I'm sure this is not sponsored, and I'm sure I've plugged this book before. But it is great, a great book. Oh, chocolate chip cookies. My next goal with cookies is to start branching out and building out my cookie repertoire. But chocolate chip cookies are just such a comfort cookie. And my beloved friend Blair gave me the most amazing recipe for them. And I make them very frequently now, and it's wonderful. Do you have cookie recipes? Amanda, let's trade cookie recipes. Yes. So yeah, head over to Instagram this weekend. You'll see cookie shots, no doubt. Yeah. Oh, what a good class, my friends. I'm feeling really pleased to go into the weekend, have some relaxation, maybe get out of the house, maybe go for a walk. It's it's 43. It's positively balmy. Barely even need a coat for 43. That's the thing that like my parents, you know, as they've gotten older, have lost a lot of their cold tolerances, which is funny to me because
They both come from very cold places initially, but I will never forget one time that I was going to go home to visit, and my mom was like, make sure that you bring, hoodies with you, because it's been getting cold. It's been like 60 degrees out. And I just went, that's tank top weather in most of the places where I've lived in the last 20 years. Oh my goodness. But this was our last class of the week. Huzzah, huzzah. A wonderful note, as always, to end our broadcast week on. We will be back again next week with the usual schedule. So starting on Tuesday at 5:45 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. All my times are Mountain Time. We have Perpetual Motion, the class where we never stop moving. Then on Wednesday at 4:30, we have Jump Around, our weekly cardio class. Fridays at 6, we have Functional Home Fitness, where we do weight training using objects you can find around the house. And that brings us back around to Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for the weekend kickoff. I do love our class schedule. And I'm thinking about adding another class in at some point. But again, talking about not overloading ourselves and recognizing when we don't have the bandwidth to do something right now, it will probably be a little bit, and that's fine. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of my handles will be in my end cards, but they're all variations on Blanche Case Fitness. My YouTube channel is where I upload all the VODs from these streams, so you never have to miss a class, even if you can't make the live cast. They go up on Sundays, and that's tomorrow, so expect a big dump of YouTube videos, so definitely head over there and subscribe. If you want to help support me financially in making these streams, I do have a coffee account at Blanche Case Fitness. Your donations are always very much appreciated. And if you want to help keep growing this channel, getting us to Twitch affiliate, we are just trembling on the precipice, my friends. Then please do follow the channel. Tell your friends, coworkers, loved ones, anyone looking for an awesome class. I stream 4 days a week. We have a great community. Even if you're not working out, just coming and hanging out in the chat. We have so much fun, and I am looking forward to everything that we get to do in 2021. So go take a shower, go have a good breakfast, go finish that water and refill it. Have an amazing rest of your weekend, and I will see you all back here on Tuesday. Mwah. Have a great day.